Welcome to Winning for America. This is our first broadcast. We are launching this, and we are glad to be able to do this on this July 4th. A happy Independence Day for America. It is a great privilege to live in this great country that has been the light and beacon for many millions through the centuries despite any shortcomings. May God bless America and all those who call this blessed land their home on this 244th celebration of independence. Winning for America is about winning for all Americans. We need to fight for each other rather than fighting against each other. This is the slogan, and this is the solution that is needed for such a time as this to fight our common enemies, be it healthcare or wealth care. We need a forum where all Americans can come together regularly, no matter any differences, to rebuild and restore America. We stand to win if we truly work for one another rather than against each other. We stand to win together if we choose to treat one another with dignity and respect. If all lives matter, then all lives need to be treated like they matter. If anyone claims to be pro-life, then they should be pro-all life, and all lives should be treated equally as valuable, no matter the differences. That's how all can enjoy the benefits of liberty and equality. This November in 2020, let us turn the chapter on all the failings of the last 4 years. We have no other option but to look ahead to a brighter future that all Americans deserve to realize. Benjamin Franklin said that we can hang together or hang separately. It is time for all Americans, no matter party or ideology, to hang together, or we will be hanging separately for a long time to come if no changes are made this November 2020. America was founded on the concept of equality and the rule of law, without which there can only be one outcome which will affect everyone: chaos. A forum like this can help us come together to find solutions and be the solutions no matter the challenges we face. America is the land of the free and the home of the brave, who are ever vigilant to guard the freedoms bought with the blood of those who sacrificed and gave it their all. Freedom is not free without keeping it that way. Citizens will not be served if they keep silent when the elected officials engage in actions that do not serve all citizens. History will keep repeating until its lessons are learned. Democracy is ours to use or lose. Be an activist citizen guarding your rights and the rights of others. Rights and responsibilities go hand in hand. Be the guardian of democracy. What you allow is what will continue. What is the state of independence 244 years later? America is not free, but taken hostage by extremism, fear, hate, bigotry, corruption, betrayal of trust, fanaticism, and the gross abuse of power and mismanagement. We now have a government by one person for that one person. By Twitter, and social media. This is not government, but gross negligence of duty by regular gaslighting and sabotaging due process that is central to democracy and self-governance. The person who promised to drain the swamp has drowned the country in the deepest of swamps by a reality horror show from day one. His winning the presidency has been a complete loss to America. The current president has been using democracy to destroy democracy itself. All the main branches of government have been infected with endless discord and dysfunction. The suffering and destruction of America is historic and unimaginable. What can be done to rescue and restore the promise and potential of this great country called America? The next 4 years will be worse than the last 4 years if no changes are made by we the people. The simple goal with this effort and slogan is to give a platform for all to help restore America if such is still possible. Support us in any way you can with your ideas or resources. We need a simple and an exciting slogan to energize all Americans to vote for an overwhelming victory to restore all that has been lost, starting with this election and beyond. Winning for America is a great slogan that can be used for that. This forum through Zoom and other social media will take place at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in America for an hour at least from this Sunday through Thursday every week as possible, barring no other hindrance. Our goal is to make it known loudly, clearly, and regularly that the government of we the people will be held accountable to we the people. So help us God. And so now I invite any one of you who is watching us or following us to take part in this very first launching of Winning for America. I have Rosa who is joining us from another country. I and Rosa talked about this particular forum and how to go about it. She has some great ideas as to how to use this means to make a change, if at all that is possible. So Rosa, if possible, please unmute yourself and we can have a chat on this topic. Are you there, Rosa? There's a lot that is happening. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for joining.
Good, finally. Thanks so much for having me. Yes, I am originally from Algeria, but I actually grew up in the US in the Washington, D.C. area. And I also went to college in Washington, D.C. at American University. If anyone who's watching knows about it. So yeah, I studied politics and I'm a political junkie, and I worked in politics for the last 8 years as a consultant. And so I do follow, the elections and just US news in general, and definitely have experienced much alarm, let's put it that way. ever since, Donald Trump not only got elected, but when he started winning primaries. So
Yes.
his rhetoric, was so divisive. It was so inflammatory. It was so wrong on every single level, not just the political level, but just a human level. The way he talked about his opponents, the way he talked about other people, the way he was just not. This was something, a force to be reckoned with, and not in a good way. This was literally, I don't want to sound dramatic, but this was literally, evil. Like you could feel sort of evil coming out of this person. Like I said, and notwithstanding his political stances, I have never, no one has ever experienced this before. And so, it is so necessary that we do something to get him out of office in November, because this cannot continue. The damage he has done is unfathomable. It is completely, it is at every single level. The damage has infiltrated different, sectors of the economy. Democracy itself is in peril and has been in peril ever since he, took office. So yeah, it is definitely necessary that we get him out of office and find a way to kind of gather everyone together and really solve the problems of Americans, so that this never happens again, because this cannot happen again. The US and the world cannot afford another 4 years of Donald Trump. And we already couldn't afford the last 4 years of Donald Trump, right? But here we are. We got this far, and this should not happen again. Throughout history, there have been, horrible leaders. There have been dictators. There have been, but at one point, no one imagined that this would be happening in this century. However, he's not the only one. As we look across the world, things that are happening here have been reflected in other places. So we do have dictators kind of, taking power in different countries. And, you have Duterte in Philippines, you have Erdogan in Turkey, we have, just these leaders that just are destroying their countries, to be honest. And there are so many other examples. And yeah, this is just part of a trend that really needs to end quickly. Because this century, we are basically, at the same time we're saying all of this, but at the same time we're also at the best time in history, right? Because thanks to, the United Nations, thanks to international organizations, thanks to world cooperation, we have been able to come together and solve a lot of problems. Poverty has been cut in half thanks to the UN and the different efforts of different countries and organizations in the past 30 years. And, I think there are so many goals that have been accomplished. So there is a lot of positive in the world. Post-World War II, the world learned its lesson. It created the United Nations, it created the World Bank, it created international organizations, human rights, and we kind of really benefited from those institutions, right? Not just the US, but the world at large. And so we learned the lessons of having, someone like Hitler ascend to power. We learned the lessons of World War II. This time around, we need to learn the lessons, and quickly. When you have someone like, Trump trying to exit the Paris Agreement, which was a huge monumental advancement in the fight against climate change. When you have him kind of, trying to undermine, NATO, just different institutions which have really, really been helpful and primordial in, maintaining peace and prosperity, across the world. Something has to be done. And unfortunately, the way things are going, it is really scary to think that this guy might actually win again. It is scary, but it's actually extremely possible because of, the way the democratic establishment and the way the special interests have brought to power someone who is not inspirational in any way to many American voters. And it's scary that this guy could actually get reelected by default, just like he won by default. Okay, he didn't win because people liked him necessarily. He won because people just needed change. People were desperate for a solution. And so this is why he won. And this was why he might win again. He might win again by default because people just don't like Biden enough. And so, you know, this is a really scary thought, but it's actually extremely possible. Something needs to be done, and quickly, because we have to kind of prevent this from happening.
You said that, you know, people do not like Biden enough so that it can again go like what happened in 2016. So
Right.
Can you explain, you know, what do you mean by Biden not being liked enough? Because we keep hearing about all these polls that, you know, Biden is about 13 points ahead or 6 points ahead, 7 points ahead, and things like that. And in fact, I was reading some news article today which said that, you know, the Democratic Party's own internal polling shows that Democrats will win or something like that. I'm not sure what it really was saying, but what do you think about that point, which is despite the fact that, you know, he may be ahead by 13 points, you're saying that he's not liked enough. What do you mean? Can you give more details or your ideas or feedback about that particular statement?
Yes. Sure. So Hillary also was supposed to win, right?
Right.
According to the polls. And let me tell you something about the polls. I do not believe the polls. I do not trust. I do not trust the polls. I do not believe the polls. Just in the primaries, the Democratic primaries, we're not going to go too far back. We're just going to go back to this year. The way polls were conducted, for example, people, for example, would be calling certain categories age categories, for example. They would be using, for example, only landlines. They would be, for example, they would call a certain person and then they would give, you know, a number of, you know, candidates, and then they would conveniently take out two candidates, you know, so that those people couldn't choose the candidates that they weren't included in the list, which happened to be those who were outside the establishment, like Andrew Yang, like Tulsi Gabbard, things like that. So let me tell you something about the polls. Besides the fact that I don't trust them and I don't believe them, because there are instances of people coming out and saying, you know, these are not right, and just look at the age groups that they're polling, and there's just a lot of irregularities, okay? Besides that, okay, that's a whole different point. What I want to say is that the reason, even if the polls were right, there are more people who will be voting for Donald Trump than we expect. And the reason being is that because people are ignorant and people are uneducated, and the people who are smart, and the people who are, and the younger people, and the people who are smart, not necessarily the same thing, you know, are not going out to vote. Okay, Biden might have some support with, you know, older generations, but he does not have the young vote. Okay, young people do not like Biden. Okay, and this is not good, because the only way we can defeat Donald Trump is if the young people come out to vote en masse. Okay, and that's not happening because young people do not like Biden. Young people like Bernie Sanders. Okay, Bernie Sanders, you know, even if young people don't necessarily agree with him politically, I don't agree with him politically. I am politically to the left. I am extreme left when it comes to social and cultural issues, for example, but I do not agree with him on economic or financial issues. You know, I'm more to the center. And I think a lot of young people also are not necessarily extreme leftists, but they like him as a person. They think he has integrity. They think he might actually bring change. They think he might not be the kind of person that will be bought. Okay, that's the main point. Okay, people like Biden have been in the establishment for too long, and it has nothing to do with age either, because they're very close in age. pardon my ignorance, but I think there's only, I think, a year between them or 2 years difference. Yes, I don't remember exactly the difference in age, but I do know they're very close in age. It has nothing to do with age, right? It has more to do with their viewpoints, their political viewpoints. It has more to do with the way they conduct themselves politically. Bernie Sanders is more trustworthy. He's seen as more passionate. He's seen as someone who will fight for the, the regular people. He's even liked by some conservatives. I know that he would even have brought in some conservative, voters just because people like him. People believe that he will try to bring a change. He's seen, even though he's been in Washington for a really long time, people see him as an outsider, if that makes sense. But the way he was treated by the Democratic establishment and the way they brought up Biden was so transparent, okay? The way they used the media to manipulate and kind of showcase, a certain viewpoint of Bernie Sanders, the way they kind of shunned Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard. Young people look at that, young people grew up on the internet. They watch this, they see this, right? They're not, stupid. So they cannot be manipulated. And young people don't go to CNN to watch the news. They're on YouTube, they're on, it's not the same thing. So the way I see it is first of all, the polls that you're talking about, I don't believe them. That's a whole different topic that we can talk about. And secondly, Biden just is not exciting as a candidate. If he had run in 2016, mark my words, he would have won, because he would have rode the Obama wave and won, okay? Because a lot of people at the time hated Trump, right? I mean, Hillary did win the popular vote. Let's not forget that Hillary won the popular vote, okay? So people, even though a lot of people didn't like Hillary, she still won, right? Technically. But so imagine if Biden had run at the time. Biden was loved, adored, because Biden, first of all, people liked him. The allegations that came out against him recently hadn't come out back then. And also people were still liked Obama, right? So even if politically people didn't like Obama, they still liked him as a person. And therefore Biden could have rode that wave, he could have won easily. He would have won if it had been him as the nominee. If he had chosen to run back then, he would have won. But this time around, no, this is a whole different ballgame. First of all, he is not seen as capable enough to govern at this point. So that's a whole very sensitive topic. And, I think it is a valid point. However, that's not the only reason, right? He's just seen as part of the establishment. Right now, what I mean to say is back then, right now, it's a different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame, right? The stakes are so much higher. Trump should not win again. So the Democratic establishment just, did such a horrible, job of picking a candidate. And it's almost like they want Trump to win again. And so, that's what I mean. I mean, first of all, like I said, the polls are not at all, trustworthy. And secondly, he's not an exciting candidate. And thirdly, he will not have the young vote. He will not inspire, a lot of people to go vote, enough people to go vote. A lot of people will vote just because they hate Donald Trump, but he will not, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, people will come out to vote, but he's not inspiring people to go and, register to vote, that kind of, he doesn't have a movement. He doesn't have energy. Like, for example, Bernie Sanders would have. Like I said, I like Bernie Sanders as a person. I would have voted for him. However, I don't agree with him politically, but he would have inspired, people to go vote. People would have felt that little kind of tingle, that there's something exciting coming up, that there's a candidate who really, really wants their well-being. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
So how is it possible to build any kind of enthusiasm? Because you can say that, we have what we have. And what will it take to, build any kind of enthusiasm more than what is there? Because I'm thinking that in the next 2 3 months, more damage can be done. Uh,
Yeah.
and so, don't you think that based on the frustration of uh, the Americans, they will
Mhm.
somehow be disgusted enough to actually go and vote for change?
That's, that's something we can hope for, but that's kind of the lazy way of going about it, you know?
Mhm.
It's kind of something that you hope for, but if we had an exciting candidate, it wouldn't be something you would hope for. This candidate would have been even bringing in conservatives, he would have bought, or he or she would have, been bringing in new voters to go, aspiring new people to go to register to vote. Biden will not be doing that. So I think people are disgusted enough to go, maybe, to go vote, but it's not enough. Now people are just kind of disillusioned. People are just kind of used to Trump in a way, which is so disgusting to hear and to to know. But I don't think Biden's just not. Let me tell you, um, as a young person, let me tell you exactly what it is. So I was following the primaries with such gusto, okay? And I do mean gusto. And I know that a lot of young people also were, because like you said, everyone is disgusted with Donald Trump, okay? However, the way the Democratic establishment brought up Biden, the way they kind of shunned Bernie Sanders, the way they treated Andrew Yang. People saw how Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard only got a few minutes at the Democratic debates. The way these candidates, the way Bernie Sanders was treated, even though he was winning, the way that the Democratic establishment brought up Biden is what turned people off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like a person like me, let me tell you the truth. I was following the Democratic primaries. I was literally on my phone. I was literally following every single, little move, every little change. I was there. Like I knew everything that was going on. I was following every rally. I was on top of it. Because like you said, people were just ready to get rid of Donald Trump. But then the way the Democratic establishment was like manipulating the situation to get Biden into power, I completely stopped following the elections.
Mm.
I completely stopped. Literally, I didn't care who, I didn't care about the percentages anymore. I didn't care. The second I saw the way they were shunning these incredible candidates who are really there for change, who really, really will make it, who are so incredibly smart. Look at Tulsi Gabbard. She is such a smart woman. She is like an incredibly smart, incredibly powerful, and just like the whole package, right? But did you see the way they treated her? And when you see things like that, you become disillusioned. You're like, okay, so there's no point. If a woman like Tulsi Gabbard, who is incredibly accomplished, or like Andrew Yang, they're both so incredibly accomplished, but the way they were treated, the way the mainstream media, for example, would show like would kind of sort of not talk about them. When people see that, they become disillusioned, so they stop thinking that they can affect change, and that's scary. So this is what happened, okay? Everyone, like what you said, people were disgusted enough. Yes, this is true. However, when people saw also that the Democratic establishment kind of wants to get Trump reelected, people just turned off. They kind of tuned out, and that's so sad. That's really, really sad.
Yeah, but now that's like water under the bridge, so to speak. I guess the point is, where do we go from here? Because
Mhm.
if you're talking about the enthusiasm gap, uh, I'm wondering what else can be done, because right now everyone is basically supposed to be locked down, and all they can do is watch the news and see what's happening, and of course watch the horror of
Yeah,
what's happening in the White House and the Justice Department. But besides that, what else can be done?
I agree.
Because
Um,
I'm thinking that, okay, we need a great slogan. I'm thinking more in more elementary terms. We need something more than what the Democratic establishment is already doing. But in the end, people might be, so frustrated and tired that anyway they'll vote whatever way they might vote. So what do you think about, that? Which is, yeah. So what else can it take? I mean, it's like
I
people
don't think
are picking
that
up.
the thing is, I don't think enough people.
Mhm. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. The thing is I don't think enough people will go out to vote.
Yeah, that's the
Does that
scary
make
part.
sense?
No, polling
That's
is
the
one thing, but yeah, right.
So this is what I'm talking about, because yes, the people who will vote Biden, like the ones that you're talking about, but not enough people will go vote. That's the problem, okay?
Right.
A person like me, after seeing what happened, like, let me tell you, and I am like a political junkie basically by birth, okay? Because my father was a diplomat, I studied politics. Politics is in my blood. So for
Wow.
someone like me to completely turn off on following the US elections, and I know a lot of, like, I'll just talk about younger people, because when you saw what happened, you just don't care anymore, right? Because
Right.
this is just wrong. This is wrong. This is not democracy. This is a facade. This is a farce, right?
Right.
So why should I even care? Why should I even go register? I'm not going to go register to vote,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not like, maybe the more like mature or conscientious people will be like, oh, but yeah, we have to go and get Donald, you know what I mean? But it's not a natural inclination, it's not because I'm genuinely excited, that I will kind of vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm wondering
So
that.
it's,
Yeah, the way things are, after I'm sure you have followed for many years, and for all these years we've been alive, so it seems like there is a certain element of the electorate, which is about what, 60 to 80 million, uh, that is dead set on going in the way they're going, which is the authoritarian, no accountability kind of government. They finally found their man, and
yeah.
they will go no matter what, to re-elect the same person, no matter how bad it is for their own pocket or how bad it is for the country. It doesn't matter almost. So I'm thinking, I'm hoping that somehow, all this won't matter, and because when I'm reading the news, it's constantly there, that many Republicans are fed up, and many are going to vote for Biden, and many are forming political action pacts, and all that to somehow remove the current occupant of the White House. So, so what do you say about any comment on that?
On the fact that some Republicans are fed up.
Yeah, will that make a
Yeah.
difference? On the one hand, on the
Well,
other hand, of course, yeah, we have this, 80 million or 40, I don't know how many follow on Twitter this president's account, and if at all there is any indication, if there are really 80 million following him or 40 million, that's a big enough number for anything to happen. Even though it says, for example, many Republicans are fed up.
yeah. Let me tell you something. What Donald Trump did was bring out the worst of what already existed in America. Okay, the fact that so many, because I am nobody. I mean, I was literally. Let me tell you, the night that Donald Trump won, I nearly had a heart attack. Okay, because I was so shocked at like the ignorance and the stupidity of the American electorate, because no one would have thought that a person that campaigned the way he did would win, right? So in any other country in the world, I would say that it's impossible that he would win. people have morals, people have values, people have a moral compass, people know what's good, what's bad. But this is America. This is America that voted for Bush twice. Okay, so he won. Okay, maybe he won the first time. People can make mistakes, but he won again. Okay, George Bush won again after the war criminal, who literally we can say, if you were any other president, he would have been tried in in the International Tribunal Court, because he literally slaughtered millions of people, of civilians, and American casualties. And he won again. So let me tell you something. It's so scary that these people follow Trump, because, like you said, he's like a cult leader. The depth of the ignorance of Americans is so scary, because ignorance is scary. Okay, ignorance and stupidity are very scary attributes, especially when those people are allowed to go and vote for a world leader, because basically the American president is also a world leader. Thankfully, thanks to Trump, now other leaders are kind of coming up and kind of taking the reins, right? So that's a whole other topic. The international, affairs portion of his presidency is a whole topic to be covered on its own. But it's let me tell you, if he wins again, okay, so he won the first time, maybe it was a mistake. People made mistakes. You hear of Republicans who are so disgusted by him. You hear of Republicans who are saying, never Trump again, like he let us down. But let's see how they vote, right? Because when you look at the Republicans in Congress, the way they have been so spineless, okay, the way they have been following Trump, the way they have honestly, I never expected very respectable Republican, Congress, members of Congress, very respected, right? Very respectable and also respected. And here they are following Trump, defending him, standing up for him. This is, so let me tell you something. I don't know, because if it were any other country, if this was any other kind of population, you would think people would have a moral compass, they would have a spine. But something very evil is happening in America, okay? Something very sinister is happening. And I know I might sound very dramatic, but I'm not, okay? Something very sinister. Any other president who had done even 0.001% of what Trump had done would have been impeached. He wouldn't have even won, but he would have been impeached within weeks, right? So I don't know what to tell you. There's something very sinister about this president and about his presidency and the way people follow him and the way even governors and respected politicians are literally, I think they're compromising their whole careers, putting their reputations and entire careers on the line, defending this president, not having a spine. So I don't know what to tell you, it's scary that he won. And that's what I'm saying. It's any other circumstance, I would have said, no, people are good, people have a moral compass, people have morals and values, and they know what's good and what's bad. They will never vote for him again. But this is not a normal president, this is not a normal presidency,
And how do you understand or explain the Christian vote, so to speak? Even though I consider myself a Christian, but I'm more, I lean towards the Democrats, or the left, so to speak. But, when I interacted with many of these Christians who support Trump, it is, first of all, mind-boggling and also scary to, observe that they really don't use any logic or ration or anything in that area. It's like they're totally gung-ho about him, and they think that somehow he's God's anointed based on their single issues, as you know. Do you have any idea as to why that is so? Besides whatever I mentioned, they think that the ends justify the means, which is they really want to stop all abortions. That's their main the first goal, and secondly, they want to stop all gay marriage. Gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your opinion on those? The Christians who support it?
That's the scariest part because you could probably, I don't know, that's the scariest part because I consider myself I'm not a religious person, but I'm a believer. Do you understand what I mean? I have a lot of faith.
Right.
Faith is a big part of my life. God is a big part of my life. And when I look at Trump, as someone, like I said, who is very close to God, who loves God, who follows God, who just kind of loves God, when I see Trump, I see the Antichrist, as a Christian, the concept of the Antichrist. This is what I see.
Yeah.
I see the Antichrist. When I don't see anything remotely Christ-like or religious or good about this person. Like I said, besides the political issues, first you want to be a human being that makes fun of disabled people. Is not a person, is not a human being, let alone a president, okay? A man who talks about women the way he does, the way he talks about different races, and the way he talks about a prisoner of war. What is good about this person? This is literally the Antichrist. That boggles my mind. I do not understand that. I will never understand that. Because you'd think a religious person would see that more than anyone else, but we don't have statistics, right? We don't know how religion is kind of, at least I haven't done any research in this area. So I don't know, I couldn't tell you about the statistics about how many religious people and like the correlation between someone's religious beliefs and if they support Trump or not. I don't know if you have any statistics on that.
Yeah, my understanding in the end is that, in one sense, this is all predicted to happen in the Bible prophecies. Many may not follow what a Bible prophecy is, but at least in the Bible, it is very clearly stated that in the end of days, end of time, that things will get really worse in all kinds of ways. Mm-hmm. So in one sense, I can understand and accept that, okay, that's what it is. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, you had something to say? Yeah, so I think that on the one hand, it's scary to observe that this indeed is happening at a time such as this, because everything seems to have unraveled within the last 4 years, from the very beginning till now. It's like there is no day that goes by without some kind of drama or extreme revelation of something that it's hard to understand that this could have happened.
Yeah. If any president had tweeted, a video of someone yelling "white power,"
he would have gone out.
He would have been skinned alive. I don't know what would have happened to him. Yet, like I said, when from a religious perspective, when I see Donald Trump, I see the Antichrist. Mm-hmm. It is so, I literally see the evil. I see the Antichrist, okay? Literally, when I see him, when I hear him, when I see the things that he did, when you go and, for example, the damage he did is so unfathomable, okay? The things that he did, people don't know, like I told you yesterday, people don't know the depth of the damage that he did. Why would you go, for example, and get rid of, regulations that protect workers safety of workers. You know, like why? Right?
Right.
Why would you do that? That's just evil.
Yeah.
There's no other word. Evil is the word to describe him. And like I said, I'm not like, no, I'm an educated person. I'm not, I'm religious. I am a secular person who believes in separation of politics and religion. However, when I see him, I see the Antichrist. Because why would you go? And for example, Obama put in some laws to kind of protect, like I told you before, natural freshwater resources. Why would you take and unravel those kind of regulations?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you such a bad person? You know what I mean? Like, why would you go and take something good and kind of unravel it? So this is why I tell you, like from a religious perspective, I honestly see him. When I see him, I see the Antichrist. I see someone who is, I do believe, I'm like, okay, so this is what, when we hear about the Antichrist, this is what we hear. Someone who is just evil for the sake of being evil. It is incredible. I don't know how else to explain this. He has to go.
Right.
In fact, the book that I wrote, like I told you, I wrote a book for a client just 6 months after he was in power, and
Right.
I couldn't stop writing. It took forever because every day I had to add a new chapter. Every day I had to add something new that he did, something wrong that he did. It was too much, so overwhelmed. And this was just 6 months into the presidency. It was just too much. And the title of the book, I titled it "Trump Has to Go," because this person just needs to leave. He just needs to leave and never, ever, ever, ever be brought up again. So, like you said before, the goal, we have to get rid of this person. And I don't know. Solutions, like you said before. It's hard. It's hard with the Democratic establishment really disillusioned because people were really excited about this election, before. And then there were so many incredible candidates. But now the way that the Democratic establishment propped up Biden really put kind of water, kind of like got rid of all the excitement that people had. And so I don't know what to say anymore because there was a lot of hope before, but now it's really, I don't know. It's like you said before, we have to count on, the people who are already registered to vote, people who have a conscience, people who have, it's an effort, they have to actually make an effort to go register and vote or, absentee ballots or whatever they have to do. It's not because people want, they'll just do it by default, but not because they're excited, not because they're inspired. And, let's just hope that that's enough to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's hope that there is enough groundswell and enough frustration by September, October that we can see some kind of a brighter future, so to speak. We can see what can happen, so that things can get better. But my fear is that, and I'm sure you're thinking of the same thing, which is there is so much damage that can be done between now and then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. I don't believe the polls. Polls are saying, people, because of the coronavirus, want to, appoint Biden. No, I don't believe any of this. There are too many Trump supporters out there. There are too many ignorant and stupid people out there. Too many, okay? As we saw in November 2016, there are too many of them, okay?
Right.
So even if Hillary won by 3 million, that's 3 million, that's not enough. She should have won by like a landslide. She should have won by, that's not enough. 3 million people is not enough. There are too many stupid people in America. So, it's just, I don't know. If this was Canada, he would have never been able to win. But in America, let me tell you, anything's possible. Bush won again, okay? Bush won again. So Trump could win again. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scary. Very scary thought. But
Right. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and it is getting to be about uh, 5 minutes, 8 minutes to 9 o'clock over here. I'm wondering what the time is there for you. Isn't it?
Oh, it's almost 2 a.m.
Oh, 2 a.m. Oh my goodness. So you actually stood up.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But it was worth having this dialogue and launching, even though there are only very few who joined us, because some things
Yeah.
actually I figured out technology-wise as to how to make the Zoom thing works with a scheduled pre-scheduled event on YouTube, for example, and so and a few other things that I figured out because of this event. And I hope that we can find material, even though there's a lot of material, it comes down to the same thing. But I hope if it is possible, we can continue this dialogue at least once a week or, however long. But you can tell me what other things we can discuss, because one of the things I am always watching out is, or I'm reading is, I go through all these different sources of news, and there is so much that is coming out every day, every minute, every hour, so to speak, that we can actually talk about, and but at the same time,
Yeah, there are a lot.
but it comes down to the same thing. Okay, he needs to go, but I'm wondering also the same thing. Where is the enthusiasm that can generate not just 12 points, but there should be at least 20 points that differentiates the candidate that has at least some sense and empathy, compared to somebody who just doesn't care about anything, whether it's truth or not. And it seems to be that he's on a roll. And there's a lot to talk about, but what do you think? Do you think that there is more that we can talk about in this direction?
No, there are definitely a lot of topics, for sure. Yeah, there's just a lot to explore, definitely. It's hard with a candidate like Biden to really kind of hope for, a lot of change. I mean, Biden, except for, some of the allegations that came out against him, it's basically like a good guy, kind of, and people do see him as a good guy. He does have some positives going for him. And just like I said before, I'm just scared that's not enough to kind of, to like gather enough votes to get Trump out of office. So I don't know. I think there are a lot of, for example, to look at, absentee voting. There's a lot of talk about, reading a lot about the problems of absentee voting, of, registration, the voter rolls. There's a lot of drama there too, right? So yeah, I think there are some topics to talk about for sure.
Yeah, in fact, if you have been paying attention, and I'm sure maybe you are paying attention, the Supreme Court has made some decisions that will make harder for people to vote. So to me, it seems like the Supreme Court has become a supreme joke. You know what I mean? There are some decisions they make that seem to benefit, but it seems like in the end, they're very beholden to this right wing and politics. And obviously, there are 6 of them over there. And it's very disheartening to hear that the Supreme Court of all places is so infected by partisan politics that it seems like what hope does America have? If they're not able to be, if they're not able to be, neutral, but decide cases on their own merit. I mean, who would have thought that Supreme Court will be involved in trying to suppress voting? And in that sense, that's why people are saying that there is this possibility that somehow the current president will find a way to stick on there through manipulation or through some other way.
Right.
And we are already seeing some signs of that, not that we have not seen before, but the
Yeah.
suppressing vote efforts,
Yeah.
and it's coming from the very top. And then it seems like even though there is so much bad, that people still take it for granted that somehow things will turn out okay. You know, by now there
Incredible.
should have been some kind of a uh, strong citizen-based, not just protest, but movement to actually, get politicians to be more accountable. But it seems like, the right-wing side of politicians, they could care less. They're just going on, and I'm wondering what are they doing in the Senate? For all this time they have been there, even for the last 4 years, oppressing and suppressing, bills that are supposed to have been passed. And so I wonder what is the end game here. So I want to call out to them, if at all possible, even though I'm a single individual, using the media or the medium of mass communication to name and shame them, to be more accountable. Obviously, that's going on in the liberal, the mainstream media, as they say, but it seems like they could care less. There is the very strong right-wing media that that is supporting this kind of non-democratic ways of behaving. That it seems like what hope is there? I mean, because they can always pull off a rabbit, from the hat in the last minute. It's like it happened to George Bush, like you said, right? We never thought George Bush will actually win the second
Ever.
time,
No, no, no.
and yet it
You
came
know
to
what it
Florida,
comes down
of
to?
all places.
It comes down to us praying that people's moral compass joins them on voting day. That's one thing to do, because anyone with any kind of moral compass should not be supporting this man. So we can just hope that people's moral compass kind of shows up with them, that day when they cast their votes. So yeah, I don't know. That's something to bank on, because maybe a lot of people, Trump supporters, are disappointed with him, and they just don't want to talk about it. I think maybe a lot of them, have been disillusioned by him. So let's just hope that there are enough of them.
Yes. So we will talk more later, hopefully, and find some things to discuss going forward. Thank you very much for taking all the effort to join this launch, very first launch, all the way from Algeria, and it was
Sure, no
wonderful
problem.
to brainstorm ideas about how to go about, and we have been able
Yes,
to come thus far. So I would like to wish you a
yes.
great night, and we will be in
Thanks.
touch again.
Okay, wonderful. You too. Thank you.
Thank you.